This episode of the Restoration Today podcast is brought to you by Protometer. Don't let hidden moisture ruin your project or professional job. With Protometer, you get fast, reliable readings every single time. Built tough for surveyors, restorers, and inspectors who can't afford guesswork. Visit Protometer.com to find the right tool for you. Hey restorers, welcome to a fresh episode of the Restoration Today podcast. Today we are talking all things content, which is such a big topic right now, especially as kind of the industry is evolving and changing, and contractors are looking for different partners, different revenue streams, different ways to serve our customers, and content is a great way to do that. So I am excited to be joined today by Yvonne Vanbibber, who she is the GM of Blue Kangaroo, Packoutz of Cincinnati and Dayton. She has a really unique background that I think is amazing to bring into the content space, because dealing with content specifically brings more challenges potentially on the kind of the emotional side than maybe a more routine water job, if you will. I suppose all restoration jobs are difficult in their own way, but contents can be different, especially if you're into the hoarding or more extreme heavy contents areas. So Yvonne, thank you so much for being here. I am going to toss it
Good
over
morning.
to you to kind of introduce yourself and share a little bit about your background in the industry.
Yes, hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me on. So my background here is both sales and marketing, which I had prior, but
Mhm.
also the flip side that has lent itself really well is my counseling background. I've also had the opportunity to have some hoarding classes and coursework, heavy content in our industry. And so both of these skill sets have lent nicely to not only our business model, but also how we go about supporting not only the contractors, the insured, but also the adjusters.
The hoarding coursework that you've done, has it been, I'm guessing it's not industry specific, it's more on the counseling and therapy side of things?
Yes, yes. If anybody's interested, maybe even when we're done, I can send you a couple of links. There are some really great classes out there now, really helpful in this industry. And it's helpful to be able to work hand in hand with someone when they're walking through that loss, to be able to have them separate, and then the emotional and physical toll
Mhm.
it can take on their person if they've lost some of that content as well.
Did you know that your counseling background was going to play the role it did when you joined BKP, or is that something that played out as you went?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, Prior to this, I have had an opportunity to work with a lot of females in their homes. And I found early on that I had that skill set when
Mhm.
they're moving
Yeah.
or downsizing or working, especially with an elderly parent.
Mhm.
And prior to BKP, just pulling those families together in a healthy way through those processes prepared me greatly for this role. So the larger vision at the time, I had no way of seeing, but now it's crystal clear.
So what brought you into the industry? Did you interview? Did you see the job posting and thought, oh, this might be interesting. This might
Yeah,
fit?
I know, right?
People kind of stumble into
Yeah, let's
restoration.
jump into content, right?
Yes.
101. I would say I had already seen clearly that this was going to be a good fit for me because of my dual background and just going back to school for just trying to understand, just that counseling aspect. But really, mainly, I really knew from assisting families who were in need and what they were going through, and the whole elderly aspect. That's a whole nother story, of course, but anybody who has an older parent and they're trying to downsize, move them, get them in a healthy space when it's really stressful.
Yeah.
And, I mean, when we stop and think about content in general or these types of things in someone's home, there's top 5 things in an adult's life that can drive you to counseling. That's the birth or death of a child, the loss or gain of employment, the loss or gain of a relationship or a marriage, health issues, and the loss or gain in one's home or business.
Mm.
So these types of things really are important from the empathetic business approach model of talking, to individuals and saying, not only are we here for you, but we're here. And a good statement that somebody in my office was saying the other day, we empathize, then we mobilize.
Oh, I like that. That is very good.
It's
Love that.
very unique, but it's so true.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so you and I were talking about offline. You were talking about the balance between serving you kind of have two customers when you're in the content space. It's the homeowner or business owner customer, and then also the contractor client that you
Right.
might be teaming up with to do this loss. So how do you balance, serving both parties and making sure that it is a cohesive, good space and not becoming, you know, argumentative or difficult,
Yeah.
especially when emotions can be running high anyway because it's a loss.
Right, right. That's a great question. I think what I was describing is this triangle approach. And so we get a call from a contractor, construction mitigator, and then we respond within that 30-minute call. The next step then is to that insured. And then from there, it's telling the story to the adjuster. So an example would be the contractor, we're not expecting them to be able to speak for us. And they're wanting us to come in with the insured, walking hand in hand with getting that timeline that they're dictating that we're trying to maintain for them. But also, we're trying to dictate that timeline and what the needs are of the insured,
Mhm.
all the while reporting to the adjuster. So let's go back to that, for instance, hoarding, or as we say, heavy content in the industry. It's important that the contractor might not understand or have the wherewithal, and we're not expecting them to do that. That's what our jobs
Yep.
are to come in and to have that empathetic side to be able to explain to them, well, you may think this is going to take 3 days, but these 120 magazines or three, closets full of shoes that have been collected for 25 or 30 years, this is going to take a little bit more of a process. And it's the separation anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Or just the loss in general.
Yeah.
And determining with them, right? We have a couple of different things that we want to say. We want to bring the level of peace. We want to make sure that we're establishing this discussion early on with the contractor to make sure that they're understanding the needs of what the insured has, but also what we have to get them on track to be a success. All the while, as we know in the industry, a lot of adjusters never make it out to a job.
Yeah.
So how are we telling the story to them, whether it's through photos, through Matterport? How are we selling them? It's going to take us
Yes.
twice as long as you would think, because it's a sitting process with the insured, almost like bringing them along
Hmm.
in the story
Yep.
and helping them to be able to release some of these things to speed the process along for the contractor, but also to make sure that we have a healthy stage when we're billing the adjuster.
How do you find, is there ever a time where on the customer side, if we're talking about like the homeowner or whatever, there's a heavy content situation or maybe a bad loss, and how do you handle if maybe the customer just like isn't ready, or you're not getting there, or it is taking longer than maybe it should, or you are a professional, maybe it takes like even another, I don't know, another level, but how do you handle those jobs?
Yeah, that's a great question. So typically, I'm not the one that becomes involved until it usually hits that stage,
Got
right?
it.
And so my project managers and I have a really great understanding of when it hits that wall, or you're hitting your head against the wall and you're like,
Yeah.
this isn't going to make the timeline, and the adjuster won't be pleased. So we want to make sure that we're keeping everybody in a good, healthy state. That's normally when I'm called out. And I think from there, it's setting boundaries with the individual in a healthy fashion and explaining to them, actually, we are trying to keep timelines and deadlines. And the goal is Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right? We want to get you back home.
Hmm.
And the sooner we can do that, the better it is for you to be back in your space. And so I think it's almost kind of guiding them to move forward in that process. And really, honestly, sometimes it just takes somebody sitting down, looking at them eye to eye, going back to the contractor, and explaining to them, hey, we've met with Mrs. Smith and, we're back on track. And it's really communication, right? In the industry, it's always bringing them up to date, and it's always helping the insured see this is stressful now. Because again, these losses don't pick and choose people, right? As we know, a fire doesn't choose someone.
No.
Yesterday, things were great. Today, they're not.
Yep.
And what does that look like for your tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
So the goal is to set that trajectory, set that future with them, saying, this is what we need to do. We need to get you to your tomorrow. And how do we go about doing that?
When it comes to getting these jobs paid, you had mentioned working with adjusters earlier and Matterports and documentation. Is there something that you have found that really levels up like your likelihood to get a claim covered in full, the bill, the invoice, whatever it may be, something, what maybe it is the F9 notes, maybe it is using a 360. Is there something that really has leveled up your ability to get paid and avoid pushback from adjusters early
Yeah.
on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say not all jobs, of course, as we all know, are created equal, but not continually going back to the heavier content story. But it's almost, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Adjuster, we would love for you to come out, and let's walk the loss together.
That will do it.
Right. And so it gets to that point where the adjuster then starts to understand, I think, okay, I don't have time, or we're slammed, and respect that, right? But it's almost like, if the Matterport or the pictures, I've even done FaceTime, right? Or, done where I'm walking through, right, with my phone, describing the story live with the person. And now we have adjusters, that call us. And we've had a couple of jobs in the last month that I'm thinking that one of our competitors was on, and it wasn't going well. They weren't able to pull the person through the story.
Mm-hmm.
And so they walked off. They're like, I'm done. So then the adjuster knows, right, that we have that ability and that skill set. And so then we're called in to finish the job, to get that brought to a close. And so I think it's just really offering the adjuster, the understanding by FaceTime them, Teams, whatever it takes, explain to them, and even do a count, okay, well, in this particular room, we have chose to keep 2 refrigerators and 3 stoves. They're not working, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. This is going to take longer to remove these things, and why, and be honest up front and share the story right off the bat.
How do you find people for your team that fit into your team that are able to serve these customers patiently, empathetically? I'm guessing it's, not so much temp labor, but people that really are able to serve, especially the heavier content customers. So what's your process like there? That has to
Yeah,
be a differentiator for your company, I'm sure.
absolutely. Yes, that is a great question. And I would say in the interviewing process, it is looking for prior jobs or things, right? Training we can do. Empathy, skill set of listening, patience being a virtue, these types of things, no.
Nope.
Right? And so I think it's almost walking through stories in employment, reviewing with people. This is what it looks like. How would you approach that? And I think it's almost trying to pull out of them the knowledge and wherewithal. What have you done in your past that would lend a story nicely to what we do here? And we're interviewing right now, and you normally can see that type of skill set by what the person has done or a story that they would tell. I would also say we do training here every other week. We always are introducing videos, talking type points. um, trying to understand calling out an employee, right? And recognizing them for that skill set, wanting to honor them in what they've done. A really great example would be, we had a job a couple of months ago, wonderful elderly lady. And a year ago, her husband of like 30 plus years had passed. And my team lead and the team that was out there in conversation, she brings up this photo, of all these years ago of her in her little wedding dress, just precious. And she said, tomorrow when you all are here packing me out is my anniversary. And so the team lead discovered the flowers that she carried were some kind of lily, and the wedding cake they had was a vanilla with raspberry filling. That night, she went out and got some lilies, and my office manager found on Amazon these cute little cakes with raspberry filling.
Cute.
The next day, they go out. This woman breaks down, just sobbing, goes around hugging every team member, and just brought that process so much closer for her to have peace of us continuing. And I think it's instilling these stories, showing how we do a one-off for somebody, right? A bonus that we're going to do to help this person through the process, which has nothing to do with the job, has nothing to do with content, but it has everything to do with the person.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it does. Okay, so you just shared a story, but one of my favorite questions to ask people that sit in a seat like yours is, do you have a favorite or a maybe most memorable or anything story from your journey so far?
Oh, gracious
I'm sure
girl,
you
I'll
have a
tell you
ton.
there are many. I know, I love it. Yeah, I would say it's the humanistic side, again, the empathize and then mobilize side of it. I think it's also so important to understand when you're in someone's home or business, those items that are sentimental.
Yes.
We have an entire VIP tagging system here that we do. And when my PMs are walking the loss, it's important to tag these items. And as everybody knows in the industry, right? I mean, it could be something as small as a piece of artwork that your child who died of cancer, we've seen, right?
Mhm.
We had another home where the lady had one thing left of her son who had committed suicide 4 months prior. Or it could be your $50,000 Chagall painting. And and it's just honoring those VIP items, no matter what the level is. We even
Mhm.
have a VIP storage room here.
Perfect.
Again, it's bringing that peace and that assurance, I think, to the person.
Yes.
And I think it's also, stories of then the full swing to the other side. I mean, we're in a house, heavy content, stored really high in certain areas. And there was a kitty cat in the house and nobody could find the kitty cat.
Oh gosh.
And so we have just great empathetic employees who brought a little kitty cat carrier, and we're out kind of trying to find this cat. That was so important to the insured. And the contractor's like,
Yeah.
right, I'm not going to go digging for this kitty cat, that's been in here for apparently six plus years. And it just, it went and hid. And so we're in there finding the kitty cat and
Oh
making
my
sure that
gosh.
it gets in the carrier and then back to the hotel for the lady. There was great stories where I actually was out at a job site and I caught a boa constrictor. I mean, it's as we know,
Snakes I'm fine. Spiders
hey,
I'm
I'm telling you,
terrible.
as we know, these stories come up, but it's not number one, it's not being shocked, having
Yes.
having empathy, understanding the needs of the family, and also then making sure that we're making sure the sentimental items are marked, producing a good schedule of loss of non-salvage. Okay.
Yes.
That gives peace.
Hmm.
That helps the person understand you value my items, you have photographed them well, you're coordinating this with me, you're then coordinating with my adjuster for my reimbursement. Making sure if any of those items, as we know in our platform, we can mark with sentimental value.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure we're recognizing that. It might not appear to be that way to us,
Yep.
but to that person, that is a sentimental piece.
Yes.
So I think that's another level that we can also offer.
I love that. Okay, my last question to you would be for contractors out there who are looking for maybe we should offer contents, but through a partnership versus starting our own contents division.
Sure.
With your sales and marketing hat kind of on now, what would you recommend that they are looking for in a contents partner? What makes a good contents partner for a restoration company?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a good contents partner is someone who understands first and foremost, why are you looking?
Mm-hmm.
Number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, what hasn't went right for you?
Yep.
Number three, how can we meet that need and that demand?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think number four, describing what sets us apart. Telling the story of what our skill set is and what we bring to the table.
Yes.
Like we were talking earlier, I have had contractors call me specifically and say, "Hey, Yvonne, I've got a problem out here. And I know this is just on the construction side. Would you be willing to lend a hand in some conversations?" Absolutely. That's our job, just because we're not receiving something, but we're still supporting for the next time.
Yeah.
And it's what can we do to offer that contractor the knowledge and the wherewithal of the skill set that we choose to bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So my contractors know that if they're in a sticky situation and they've got, because we've also proven we're so great with elderly people, and just the patience and just the empathetic side and the sometimes talking louder and, sometimes sitting and hearing stories about children and
Yep.
the death of a spouse, may not be always ideal for contractors or an adjuster. And I've even had adjusters, could you please just call and talk to this person? May not pan out,
Mm-hmm.
but this is a problem. And could you lend some of that to the table? Ideally, that's what gains trust.
Yep.
That's what shows knowledge. And that shows that we are able to bring that piece to the table that may be lacking in the industry.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay, Yvonne, I love it. This was all I love
Thank you.
supporting for the next time. I love that you said that. That is a great like kind of educational sales, all of that, looking forward and yes, it comes around. So thank you so much for your time and your expertise.
Welcome.
Is
Thank
there
you.
anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, I would say, hey, we're heading into a good season, guys. So let's all stick together and hang in there and get out there and support.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
For more Restoration Today and the latest news, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com, and find the latest episodes of the Restoration Today podcast on your favorite podcasting platform.